All right, welcome in right before the Dallas Cowboys' 5th training camp practice kicked off in Oxnard. Boom, Cowboys tight end gets paid. Is it the right move for the Cowboys, or are the Cowboys betting too big on a bounce back? We've got all the standout plays of the day practice, breakout performers, and great vibes from another intense day of Cowboys training camp. Plus, Stephen Jones responds to fans heckling him and his daddy, yelling, "Sign Micah," as they make their way around the practice facility. We'll tell you exactly what Steven had to say. In injury updates, yes, there is some concern as a handful of key players were sidelined. We've got the full rundown. Let's do this.
The only thing else I got to say is, how about this, Cowboys? Yeah!
All right, how about Wow? Brought to you by Bet Online. Sign up link in the description. I'm Gavin Dawson from The Fan, 2 to 7 every weekday. And joining me, as always, the former all-academic SEC lineman from Kentucky, New Bear Lesniewski. How the hell you doing, buddy?
Well, I got to tell you, you say that every single time, and it makes me feel so damn smart. Can I tell you, my son went up into the 3rd floor and broke one of my academic plaques.
Oh, no.
Literally, like he brought the glass down, and we're lucky he didn't end up with another trip to the old emergency room.
That would have been 3 this month, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's Mowgli, man. He's a different deal.
He's a future game plan wrecker. I know that. And I think it's fitting that he broke one of those, New Bear, because I think he might be the only guy in the history of all academic major college football to also have a major disciplinary issue at the same time.
No, stop that now. I mean, I might be the only one on an ESPN report. I'm detrimental to the team. I mean, how deep do they go in Wayback Machine? But
I love it. I love it, man. All jokes aside, it's what I love about you. You're the man and the bear, all in one. Jake Ferguson's contract. Here's more on what Schotty said and why they're willing to invest $13 million a year over a 4-year contract for a guy who had such a down 2024. Here we go.
Last year wasn't to his standard or to our standard. There's a lot of reasons for that. He got dinged up a little bit. Quite honestly, there's ways that we should have used him a little bit better. I need to take that, but I think what we expect is the Fergy we had 2 years ago. And the big play guy for us down in the red zone, the contested catches, guy that Dak trusts. He had a big play yesterday on a free play situation for him. So we expect Fergy to have a terrific season.
I really like the deal. I do believe Jake Ferguson is a difference-making tight end, maybe not on the level of the absolute best ones, but he gives you some violent playmaking ability. And last year, there's a pretty good explanation. I mean, the Cowboys' offense was in quicksand for the first 2 months. Jake Ferguson entered the season with an injured knee. Then Cooper Rush comes on, and Ferguson gets a concussion. I mean, I was kind of surprised when I look at the stats difference from 71 to 59 catches. Jake Ferguson was battling to produce somewhat decently, but we saw in 2023 he has the potential to be an absolute game breaker. And I think the best fantasy projections I found are around 65 catches for maybe 700 yards and 5 touchdowns. That'd be a hell of a season for Fergie, and I expect something like that. New Bear, how about you?
Well, I mean, I was going down the list of not just highest paid, because I mean, when you're talking about best, everybody loves Brock Bowers, and everyone's super high on another Penn State tight end who's a height, weight, speed guy, right, with the Warren kid. And so there's guys who are just going to be locked in at lower numbers because they're rookies or they're on their rookie deals. But when you go look at the top guys, and even if Fergie's at 6, who's he behind? Njoku, Andrews, who's on the tail end, right? Coming back from the hip drop, he hasn't looked right in a couple years. Hawkinson had the ACL, and he has an incomplete season last year. McBride, who everyone loves, talk about fantasy, he's tight end 1. Kittle is still probably the best tight end in the league if he can stay healthy. And then you go, who's after him? Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Taysom Hill, who's not really a tight end. Everybody knows Dalton Schultz, Kelsey, Pitts. I mean, there's a mixed bag. You talked about yesterday how it takes longer for tight ends and how there might be a bigger miss rate with that room than even the quarterback room, and how bad teams are at drafting quarterbacks early, right? So when you look at what he's getting paid relative to how the position moves, then I don't see anything wrong with this. In fact, you could argue that getting ahead of it like this, assuming what we all think he's going to go out and be the crash test dummy, and with CD and GP, there should be a lot more room. Has to be.
I cannot wait to see what kind of room he has in the middle, because the guy is already brave enough and, has the hands enough to go get the ball in a crowd and take the hit. Now you can only imagine with Pickens and Lamb drawing more attention to the outsides that Ferguson might be able to feast. I would not be surprised if an 800-900 yard season is in the making for him. And I think the contract's right. Like, the top of the tight end market is $19 million. Maybe you're getting more. You're getting more than 2/3 of the best tight end for just 2/3 of the money. And once again, New Bear, the other talking point is we see what it takes. The Cowboys are willing to do deals early if you're willing to give them a little bit of a break for your contract security and the fact that you get to be a Cowboy the rest of your career. I think it's a win-win.
When you talk about guys like Bowers, who's just an absolute freak, and Warren, the Penn State kid, took snaps as a quarterback. He was a Wildcat quarterback. But so did Freiermuth, and so did Gesicki. There's a lot of 6'6", 260 pounds, 6'5", 250 pounds. That's what NFL tight ends are. When you scroll down this list, there's literally 100 guys getting paid, and they all fall somewhere in that range.
It's hard to find the ones that can actually play, because what we're looking for is big with good hands and athletic. And that's just not what is going to get it done. I think there's an it factor at tight end that's as important as anything you can measure.
Well, and the biggest part of that relative to Ferguson specifically in the situation that he's in is he's already earned Dak's trust. And when you talk about the room that he should have, if Dak's been willing to back shoulder him into double coverage, what does that look like when it's him 1v1, when it's him in the hole against Tampa 2? We're talking about shots, right? This should be the 7-on-7 as camp rages on has to feature at some point a best of Jake Ferguson.
Absolutely. I cannot wait for this season to get started and see what Jake Ferguson is capable of, especially because dude's locked in. Okay. A 4-year extension, $52 million. And he said at his presser, if I could get that pulled up, I don't know where the heck that went, but he said at his presser today that he made it a goal to eat 250 grams of protein every day.
1 gram per pound. He's a bodybuilder, baby.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. He says, I was a big Oreo guy.
What a sacrifice.
Yeah, it is. That's every night one of the most delicious treats that you can possibly have, a double stuffed Oreo. He's just swearing those off in the name of excellence.
Can we do there? It's only double stuff. Those are the only Oreos that you shouldn't be even messing with. I wonder that someone has to ask him, and you and me this week, if we get to saddle up and we're out in Oxnard, did he get into the cookies and cream protein that is as close as you can get to that treat where you can kind of maybe mind bleep yourself into thinking I'm still hitting that Oreo at the end of the day?
Dude, to that point, whenever I see cookies and cream flavored anything, I got to try it just to see how much of that elite flavor profile they can capture in that. Okay, let me share the next tab we're going to talk about, because Nick Harris, Johnny on the spot, love his journalism, Star Telegram, must follow. Here he is at Nick Harris FWST. He joins us every week in the G-Bag Nation during the NFL season, but he's talking immediately about who are the next guys to get done. Is it Micah Parsons, Tyler Smith, Deron Bland, George Pickens, Brandon Aubrey? They have a lot of business to do, and Coach was talking today at his presser that they're trying to get a bunch of stuff done here in Oxnard, California, so this might just be the beginning. And, buddy, if you can continue to get guys like Osa and Fergy to take significantly less than market value for the right to do a deal early and lock in to be a Cowboy, I think that's this team's path to figuring out a way to stock more good players on your payroll than the salary cap should allow. Everybody's got their own way of trying to get that done. Hopefully the star and people saying, I want to be part of this for my entire career can, give them a significant team building advantage. I know that's what Jerry envisioned when he essentially came up with the idea for the NFL for the salary cap. And it instantly kind of blew up in his face. But hey, maybe we're finally getting there.
Sorry, I was having a little bit of a freak out with my internet browser. If I'd
be strobe lighting on me or something.
Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs here. I had to close out a bunch of stuff because I was getting the pinwheel of death.
Going back to the 90s, Rave New Bear.
Rave Bear. One of the things that I was thinking about as you go position by position is, it would be silly to talk about Jake Ferguson and look at and not look at, he's like a 68, 69% catch rate guy. Whereas the Travis Kelce's and the Sam Laportas, the next level guys who get schemed open by their teams because they're such an integral part of unlocking the total passing game for those teams. I started thinking about and started looking at like position by position. What are the metrics? What are the counting stats? What are the PFF grade style things that we're going to look at where we would say this guy has made the leap?
Yeah, I think it's EPA per catch, yards per completion, yards per target. Can that room open up and now he's catching it with one man to beat, or maybe he's beating a linebacker and now the safeties are racing him to the end zone coming over from the opposite sides. I think, what's the most you could possibly get from a tight end when it comes to like yards per completion? I think
right.
That's got to be the thing that I would hope. Touchdowns. We need like double-digit touchdowns, ideally.
Well, and that's the thing that's missing from Trey McBride. And there's a funny little story about how he didn't even score in like high school. It's not just him having a hard time in NFL red zone. It's him being a guy who everyone thinks is going to be tight end one in fantasy because he's finally going to have that not regression to the mean, but actually score when he should. And so when I started thinking about, if Tyler Smith is already the second-rated guard, what's it going to take for us to be like, oh, okay, we'll reset the market with that guy versus what would it take for him to take 66, 67, 68% on the dime? When we started looking at the Diggs contract, which we've talked a lot about with him being locked in where he is, if he can get back versus where Surtain and Sauce and others have taken the cap, when you start talking about Bland at 22, if he's doing 3, 4, 5 pick sixes, even if one or two goes over his head, I think you take the good with the bad with a guy like that. And I think the good with the bad, though, is what keeps him at 22 instead of earns him the right to be in a situation like Micah is, where he's talking about resetting the market.
Yeah. Yeah, on this list, I think I absolutely need to have Tyler Smith and Micah Parsons and Brandon Aubrey probably. Best kicker, good from 60 yards, insane. And then after that, I think it starts to get kind of interesting. Like if you got to pick one to let go, is it Deron Bland? Is it Pickens? How do you approach these kind of situations? I think adding Pickens is interesting because of how much they whiffed in the draft the last couple of years. What does missing on Mozzie Smith and maybe Schoonmaker do for you as far as freeing up future cash? Can you trade for a George Pickens and then put him on the assembly line to replace Mozzie? Is like, okay, this is the guy we're going to pay now. I hope so. Because if you're going to win the Super Bowl here as Dak continues to get older, you can't be like losing the war of attrition like they've basically done the last 2 off seasons.
So at the same time, when you talk about Pickens' catch rate being subpar relative to the routes he was asked to run and the difficulty of the job he was tasked with in Pittsburgh, if he comes in and all of a sudden his metrics improve by 10% while the yards per catch maintains, while the touchdowns go up because Dak's willing to put it up to him, then this is a completely different conversation, because if that happens, there is no question. If that happens, CD might hold him hostage, might not let him leave until he puts ink to paper.
And I think that's what players have to be thinking right now. That's why maybe a Jake Ferguson comes in. If you're a Deron Bland, do you go in right now thinking, dude, we better get on the books or we're going to be playing for a different team? Or do you think, no, if I go somewhere else, the cap's going to go up and maybe I'll be in line for $25 million. Maybe I could get $27 million if the cap really jumps. And instead of the Cowboys probably offering 19, 20 right now, But eventually some of those players are going to take him up on the deal. Like Osa couldn't get signed quick enough. He's like, I don't want to go anywhere, so you're kind of weeding out who's in it to maximize for the money. And if you're really playing the salary cap game, you should let those guys go. Like, congratulations. I guess we're not for you. We're going to turn our attention, unless it's an elite player. And I think Micah Parsons is that. But the next group down of like sometimes Pro Bowl guys, if they don't want to play your game, I'm letting those guys walk. I would have easily let Jake Ferguson walk.
I wonder too, because Fergie's guarantee is what, like 30? It's right, 60 whatever percent of the 52 total. So when you look at it like that, if you're Bland, are you willing to take 2022 if it's fully guaranteed? Remember, the TJ Watt thing came down to the guarantees is what the bat phone was telling everybody, right? And he got 108 over 3, he got 36 per, but it's 108 guaranteed. But that was 15 million less than Myles Garrett got. I mean, he lost that battle, even though he wins the AAV at 41. So forget Surtain, forget Sauce, forget 30. How much of a percentage, like how much of the pie do you need if it's fully guaranteed?
Yeah, if it's fully guaranteed, that definitely changes the conversation. It eliminates a lot of my concerns, but it's just so impossible, because how much does the guy like Texas? How much does he like the Cowboys brand? Did he grow up hating the Cowboys? Is all of his family in the East Coast? Are they in California? Does he hate California or like California? That's where Deron Bland's from, and how California and Texas, like the culture war is going. Do you identify more with Texas or California? Maybe you love it here and you can't imagine going anywhere else because you love the barbecue and the gun laws. You know what I'm saying? There's so much stuff that comes along with it.
Don't forget taxes.
Yeah.
There's a reason Tiger Woods posted up in Jupiter, Florida. I mean,
yeah,
we can break this thing down on a million different levels, and let's just agree that really what's really fascinating about this is the conversations are happening, and unlike Micah, they're happening behind closed doors. Yeah. And when you see some of this stuff come out of the woodwork a little bit, the Fergie one is a good deal for him, and it's a good deal for the team. You don't see that very often. You usually it's like, well, who won, right? Because even TJ Watt, as much as people love him because he's 31, there's a ton of people in Pittsburgh who are killing the team for giving in and not franchising him or not trading him for picks, even if it was less than the magic number that you deem worthy of a guy that is going to the Hall of Fame and a guy that you want to be a one helmet guy. These situations where we're not necessarily talking about injury, but we are talking about injured, meaning hurt, like you can't play, but playing through it and that kind of sabotaging any leverage that you have. Because when they go look at it, quite frankly, Schotty can say whatever he wants, but they weren't sitting in that room saying, hey, Jake, it was our fault that you weren't as good as you could have been last year. They were saying, hey, Jake, your production went down. Hey, Jake, there's concerns that you might stay hurt because you're a crash test dummy, and that's why we're only going to guarantee 60-some%. So when you go through the machinations of all these different things, obviously, each case is its own litigation, if you will. And when you look at a guy like Bland, we're talking about good with bad because of the pick sixes he's going to make, and then the bombs that are going to go flying over his head, Tecmo Bowl style. With a guy like Fergie, it's injuries. With a guy like Micah, it's just going to come down to how damn much, how freaking big is the number. Everyone's a little bit different, right? And I think Tyler Smith, though, has a chance, given where he's been ranked and where he's, still ascending, to put himself in a position to be a guy who,
will be holding out with the Cowboys because he wants the top of the market money.
But he's also earned it, deserves it.
Yeah.
And that puts it, into a potential.
That's what Ferguson's showing us is it's not the Micahs and the Tyler Smiths, it's the Osas and the Travis Fredericks, right? They don't want to stare down Jerry Jones because they know the Joneses are willing to give up guys who aren't TV stars.
Well, I also think, like, when you look at who's still out there, like forget who's already been signed and what the market is and where you slot or don't. Because there's going to be people who are killing the Cowboys for this deal, saying that Jake Ferguson isn't the 6th best tight end in the NFL. If you go through a fantasy football league right now and make a draft, he's not getting drafted in more leagues than people are clamoring to look at the breakout, right?
Somewhere between 9 and 15 or so would be, I guess, on the range. Yeah.
No, I'm telling you, push way down further because people are willing to take a flyer on the Warren kid coming out as a rookie, even with the quarterback situation in Indianapolis, because They just see the potential. They see where he was taken in the pedigree, and they go, okay, I can wait till the very. I don't have to take Bowers. I can go take CeeDee Lamb. I don't have to take Trey McBride. I can go grab my quarterback, and kind of reset the whole draft board and mess with people. I mean, that's really what I like to do. Sometimes I take Bowers and McBride and just say, y'all figure it out. And then I grab Ferguson too, and then I try to trade McBride for CD or whoever you don't get early. But as you go through the machinations of this, again, just to reset it on tight end kind of influencing the rest of the pack, is the fact that these guys are all key, they're all healthy, and they've all put themselves in a position to say, hey, like, just give me 90. Give me 90%, not 90 million. But maybe with Tyler Smith, we're talking about 90 plus, depending on how long the deal goes. But when you start talking about 90% and it's fully guaranteed, I think you get a lot of these deals done. But then you also lose what they want, which is, if we're going to talk about going out to Oxnard, we're going to talk about the difference between California and Texas. I mean, how many farms, how many miles of farmland between those two places that they can engage every single lane marker of the way, mile marker of the way.
Indeed. Up next here on How About Wow. All righty, let's go to some plays. What do you say? Let's see how today's fifth practice, the first padded practice of Oxnard, California, went. We're going to start with Joe Milton to Jaden Blue. Another great day for Jaden Blue. Number of clips showing him carrying the ball. I have yet to see him drop it. He's getting behind the secondary, and some of these situations he would be tackled well before it. But Jaden Blue's making things happen, dude. I think that this was maybe our number one wish going into Oxnard, is that Blue would start making a case that he could be the starter. That's what we're seeing.
Two things that I love is that even though, like you said, on a lot of these plays, they would be tackled, or even if they were thudding up, the dude might be eating some turf or pulling it out of his face mask. But the two things I love is they're finishing runs. Like it's that old Jerry Rice thing, right? Where you finish every play, conditioning within a practice, take yourself to the next level and prepare yourself to make those plays, right? Like going 60 and then having to reset and go catch another 5-yard route in the flats and going 60 again. I mean, that's how you go to the next level. The other thing is, you notice every stinking time on that clip, it was at the goal line, but he's putting that second hand over the ball. I mean, he is conscious of the ball awareness and the fumble history that he has. And I think he knows that the only thing that is keeping him from potentially being that bell cow back is putting it on the dirt. And he's doing everything he can to keep that from happening.
Okay. It was another great day for another corner. It's been Kaiir Elam. Here comes Andrew Booth. Todd Archer saying today had a handful of PBUs in today's practice. Here's one of them. Not a great day for Jalen Tolbert, but really nice. Second rounder from the Minnesota Vikings in 2022. He fell out of favor quickly, had a couple of stints with the Cowboys last year. They acquired him, they played him, put him on the practice squad, brought him back up late in the year. But over the last couple of days, between Kamon Hall, Kaiir Elam, and now Andrew Booth, maybe we're starting to see some quality emerge at depth here at cornerback.
Well, we're also seeing a consistent theme that we've known for freaking ever. I mean, this is another guy with 5-star talent and 5-star measurables who falls out of favor with another team, and you take a shot on him, because if you can get him right, the ceiling is virtually unlimited with guys like this. I mean, Elam, and I mean, when you look back at what these height, weight, length, speed, ball skills, aggressiveness, and then you go, okay, they fall out of favor. Why? Maybe it's a bad scheme fit. Maybe there's an injury. Maybe they are trying to play hurt, but they're actually injured. And you go through all these different elements that end up with a dude having to have a second or even a third chance. And like you always talk about, sometimes that change of pace and that change of scenery is such a refreshing thing, where there's no expectation because you're not a first-round pick anymore. You actually failed already.
Yeah. No, I think that's what the player loves. It's so refreshing to drop into a spot where the GM isn't trying to burn holes in the back of his head every time he turns around and walks away because he's so pissed off that you didn't make good on his decision to take you, or the coach that vouched for you hates you because that's the reason that his boss doesn't trust him. I mean, it's just such a toxic environment. You get to move away, and then all of a sudden the team's like, well, shoot, you're better than anybody else we got here. So welcome aboard, buddy. Thanks for being decent.
Yeah, I mean, running fast and jumping high never goes out of style, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if everybody can run fast and jump high, and everybody's around the same height, weight, length, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys who are sitting at home saying, "Well, if that guy could do it, I could have done it," but you didn't get it done, right? And these folks who get that second and third chance and make the most of it, that's how they become fan favorites. Like, people aren't looking at Kyrie Elam going, "Oh, that's a failed first round draft pick." They're looking at a guy. I mean, everybody loves America loves a redemption story, a comeback. Rocky Balboa is not even a real person, he's a fictional character. He's got a statue. You know what I mean? Like, when we go through this in Oxnard and we're holding babies up like Simba, there's a reason that happens, because there's magic when these dudes find the immaculate vibes.
I love that reference. I love that moment from camp yesterday. We have an update on that story coming up here for you. I think it's notable, and I'm sure we're going to get a comment like, guys, we're talking about bus. We're talking about undrafted free agents. I want to remind you, go look at Josh Butler from last year. Tragically tore his ACL, but this dude had been battling for 4 or 5 years to trying to get a foothold into the NFL. Last year, it finally worked, and he was playing serviceable. This Cowboys team has gotten very good at pro scouting because of the way they manage the salary cap. Every single year, they're having to go and try to find starters that can play for league minimum, and they've gotten pretty good at identifying guys that they can plug in. And while I would not bet on all 3 of these guys having better years than what you would expect, I think they found something here, and at least some decent depth. And secondary room's not the only place. We're starting to see some stuff on the O-line as well, New Bear.
Well, before we move to a different position group, the one thing when we were talking about guys falling out of favor that I didn't mention was that I found this quote about Booth that was really interesting coming out of Clemson. They said, this is an anonymous scout saying that, at Clemson, they run a lot of shell coverages, but this scout that NFL.com puts forward and says, this is the defining quote about this player coming out that year, is that scout believed he was more of a Lovie Smith type corner, but with better twitch and speed. I mean, those two things couldn't be more different. And like when you talk about then getting to Minnesota and then you slot him in and he's running around with the Harrison Smiths and the different guys that are coming in and out, think about some of the names that have come through wearing purple and blowing on the Viking horn, right? Like, that defense is really interesting. It's multiple. They're very demanding, and they match cover, and you think they would just play to the skill set of a guy. And when that guy is Harrison Smith, it's pretty obvious. When it's, Patrick Peterson or Stephon Gilmore, when they're young, it's one skill set. When they're old, it's another skill set. This was a guy when he was coming out that people were conflicted, if not confused about.
Man, that's great perspective, and that's why you tune into How Bout Wow here, Dawson and New Bear, every single day here on the channel, talking about the Cowboys getting back to the glory days. Up next, let's go to some Jack Sanborn in coverage. It's funny, we were just talking about this yesterday, made an appearance in the highlights. Here's the guy that came over with Eberflus from Chicago, inside linebacker for the Cowboys. If you don't know, Jack Sanborn. Not too bad, New Bear. I know you grew up a Bears fan. You still stay very connected. What can Sanborn do for the Cowboys?
He's going to be where you ask him to. I mean, even in a place like that, you've got to make an NFL throw. You've got to put the ball perfect. I mean, he's gonna put himself in a position to make your job real hard. He's not going to be there every time. He's going to give up a chunk play every once in a while because he just can't turn and run like some other guys. But he knows where he's supposed to be. He knows what everyone else is supposed to do, and he's going to give you every ounce of everything that he's got. And when he's playing downhill, those things are mitigated when you go vertical, horizontal stretch, like we like to talk about what CD and GP want to do with folks on our side of the ball. That's where they get exposed. And he had a tremendously bad coverage grade. And at the same time, you can go find a hype reel of this guy playing downhill, smashing dudes inside the box, hunting quarterbacks, making plays. I think it's just a matter of, what are they going to be asking him to do? And when you go through that linebacker room, what might injuries or other circumstances force him into, a production expectation that is unrealistic?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if he started, though, what he does well would produce over 100 tackles. If he started over a 17-game period, he would produce. It's just would his shortcomings in other spots, have your defense giving up 28 points per game? Maybe. He's not going to be a massive difference maker. But if things are funneling to him, he's going to make the play, right?
Yeah, this is a guy, 11 out of 10, no notes. He's making the tackle. He's making the play that he's supposed to. He's the shortstop that never makes an all-star team and maybe never wins a gold glove, but you love having him because he's not making errors. And if you're winning a pennant and he's one of the key guys that you don't have to worry about, you'll just show up every day with the lunch pail and take what he gives you. The challenge becomes what you just said. The inverse is that the elite quarterbacks are going to be able to expose him on a down in, down out distance. I think this is a different conversation about Jack Sanborn if Diggs is healthy, if Ravel is healthy, if you have elite shutdown type guys outside where you can shift, shape, and mold almost like you would chip with a tackle with a back or a tight end. If you can protect him in coverage, he will be in the right place. He will just watch a ball go over his head or watch a dude run past his hip and not be able to run with him. But if this front four in particular is able to get home, wreak havoc, affect the launch point of the quarterback, he's a guy who can fill in a lot of gaps, make a lot of noise by simply just being where he's supposed to 100% of the time.
Okay, let's stay on the linebackers here, New Bear. We go to Run Fits. Who does it better? Nick Harris Star Telegram with the Shamar James play here. I got to mute it. I think we got copyright flag. But let me go back to this one. There's Shamar James stepping up. I love how he sidesteps the tackle there. I guess that's Tyler Guyton. Pretty dang quick. Team captain at Florida, Shamar James, bang, right there to meet the ball carrier. And that'd be a big hit in the hole if that was on Sunday. And then you have Maris Leofau here, second year out of Notre Dame. He's going to be right there, I believe. Yes, sir. There's Leofau 35. And here comes the play. Boom, same deal. I mean, came to him perfectly, man on man. And I think that's the thing going back to Leofau's draft profile. It was so many missed tackles. If he can be a solid tackler and totally clean that up, then total confidence that he's enough of a dog. He's a smart enough football player, and positional awareness is all there for him to take a big step in year two. But, when you can't tackle, right, as a collegiate player, what are the chances you can ultimately totally solve that as a professional? I wouldn't bet on you, but I'm sure it's happened before.
I'm just thinking about which one of these dudes is harder to talk about, right? Because they both have such interesting backgrounds and stories. We're talking about James and Leofau. I mean, is there one that you want to start with or sit with?
No, go ahead.
Well, the James one is fascinating to me because he was a consensus 4. Rivals had him as a 5. I think he was as high as 2, but Rivals had him as the number 1 linebacker coming out. And going back to high school, right? And he's like 6'1", 220. He's undersized, and he's not super fast, but he is sudden, and he'll put his face in the fan. And he plays as a freshman, and then he gets hurt as a sophomore. And when you go back and look at, Billy Napier and company trying to rebuild the Florida Gators to make them back into the Florida Gators so my Kentucky Wildcats aren't coming into the swamp and kicking their ass, when he went down, they were going into the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. They can't say that at the game anymore, but I think we can still say it in the podcast, right? And they go into that Georgia game, and the whole season's still in front of them. I mean, everything was still possible. He goes down, and there were other reasons, but I mean, they didn't win another game for the rest of the season. I mean, this dude was important. He was on his way. I mean, he was a freshman All SEC. I think he was honorable mention All American, but he was a guy who came out with his hair on fire and was on that ramp that you want to see, and then comes back and maybe it took him a little bit to get ramped up, if you will. And his production was wanting in terms of the counting stance, and then his measurables are wanting in terms of all the things we've talked about with so many of the other guys that the Cowboys have invested in with height, weight, length, speed. And then you go team captain, and then you go back to the face and the fan, and you go back to plays like that where he's willing to, every time someone talks about undercutting, every time someone talks about the shorting the angles to try to make a play, like, you highlight that by talking about his aggressiveness and how he's willing to trust his instincts to go get inside and really win from the inside out. And maybe he has to do that because he doesn't have the long speed, and he knows that if he doesn't win early, he gets beat late. But there's so much to like about this dude as a core special teamer and as a guy who's going to play as long as he wants to, if he's willing to do some of that dirty work, knowing that he's one play away from being the guy like he was at Florida.
It's just so weird because, I mean, I understand that everybody had a chance to look at him and decided that they did not want to take him until well into day 3. They're talking about below average play recognition and processing speed, explosiveness and change of direction, gap discipline issues, coverage anticipation needing refinement. I guess we could see some of that stuff in other plays, but when I mean, that's the crazy thing. When I watch him play college football or watch this rep right here, I see a guy who is ferociously getting himself into position and adjusting to the blocking scheme coming his way in order to put himself face to face with the ball carrier. I guess that's the secret sauce of scouting that makes it difficult to tell, but I would bet on Shamar James to be a day 3 player.
Well, you're asking him to do one thing that's very specific that he's wired to do and capable of doing. And then you got to ask him to do that again and again and again after they just gashed you for 17 or 27, doing the same thing we talked about with Sanborn, whizzing one right by your ear hole on the previous play. If he can be put in a situation where he's a rundown linebacker, a downhill rundown linebacker, you can have a ton of success. I think you think about him very similar to how you think about a one technique nose tackle, and then on third down you bring in the sub package.
Very interesting. Okay, up next here on what do you make of this story here? Okay, Tyler Booker was with the 2s yesterday. He was back with the 1s today. We're going to get a quote from Brian Schottenheimer on this, but you have a rookie coming in, and everybody expects him to be the starter, but Schotty decided to go with the veteran Rob Jones yesterday, and here was Schotty at today's press conference sort of explaining the why on that.
Yeah, it was really compete every day. That's the central theme of the program. Rob Jones has been doing some really, really good things. Tyler's kind of hitting that mark where it was like a little bit like, whoa, okay, doing some good things, but doing some things that, weren't to the standard. So what do? You make a change. Is it permanent? I don't know. I think Tyler's going to be back out there again today with the 1s, but you can't stand up here and have the central theme of your program be compete every day. And if a guy's performing well, not reward him. Just like when we split up and do different things, you're going to, move guys around and do things like that. So,
man, it really seems like the way people are talking, this is more about Rob Jones having a good camp as a veteran, and Adeniji as well, the tackle with Terrence Steele out the last couple of days, stepped in and was successful. And maybe we have some quality depth here emerging, but you never want to see the 12th overall pick guard that you took. You take a guard at 12, you're expecting that guy might be an instant Pro Bowler, right?
Yes. And I freaking love this because it sends a message to the whole damn team. Hey, George Pickens, you want to go put whatever you want to put on your eye black and write that check? Fine. You drop a ball and Tolbert's making plays, you're not going to play. Like, I love the message that this sends without having to say another damn thing. Booker's hitting a little bit of a rookie wall. And this other, like you're talking about, is as you go through it, like you have to reward guys, but think about how acute that situation has to be. You can't just do it for the sake of doing it, because the players know. The players know if a dude is a try-hard guy, but he has no shot of unseating the dude in front of him. And when you look at, particularly in the offensive line room, right? We talked about how some of the guys that are coming back around, and if anybody has the same type of measurables, you know, when you go 6'5", 6'6", 320, 330, and you look at these guys, if you put them in a lineup, could you really pick them apart? Could you really tell the difference between some of them? I mean, it is what it is, because you're looking for very specific things at tackle, at guard, and at center. And they've got clone army level dudes. And the difference is twitch, and the difference is spatial awareness, and the difference is playbook assimilation. All of those things add up to Booker hitting a little bit of a wall. And if it's close at all, you get an opportunity to not just light a fire under his ass, but to let everyone else know that you could be in the same exact position tomorrow.
I love that. That's what Belichick did a lot of, and it created a standard where the best players had to try the hardest. And once you got your best players being your hardest workers, now coaching is a lot easier. You know, I know Schotty has benched Dak last year at one of his first practices as an offensive coordinator. And if you have that, standard for everybody on the football team, I think nobody can get comfortable enough to get complacent.
So love everything about that, but we can't talk about Belichick and Schottenheimer, the younger, in the same way, because Belichick did it with fear. Schottenheimer's doing it based on a reward system, and that's why it matters how good the other guy is playing. If Awesome Richards were to unseat Tyler Guyton after the first couple of days of him whiffing and getting beat, you would say the same thing. No problem with it, because here's a dude who's working his ass off, who's basically the same measurables. And look, when we're splitting hairs, like you've talked about a million times about how the Cowboys struggle with twos and how there's a drop off at 12 or 15 annually in the first round of the draft. And then teams like the Steelers with wide receivers, or, you know, pick your favorite team and what they do well, position group by position group later in the draft. Most of these guys, as you go through it, you're seeing more and more undrafted free agents. You're seeing, like, the Wes Welker story isn't like the hero's journey anymore, because there's just so many more talented players than there ever has been. And when you talk about the traits and you talk about the measurables and you talk about guys, you know, think about Cooper Kupp and what he did in college and how people passed on him. And then when he's healthy, he's a Triple Crown guy. He's a Super Bowl MVP, right? And that's out wide. And that's a guy that's plain as day, because those guys are basically as naked as it gets on a football field, receivers and corners. Like, you look at it, you see it, you get it. In the trenches, where you can really have a little bit of like, okay, like here's a chance we could take. Here's a risk we could take, because it's a little bit harder to tell, because they all have heavy hands. They're all nasty. They're double teaming and they're getting help from the other guy who's really good next to them. And then we scheme some things in team to put you in a position where there's tape for us to put the laser pointer on the wall and show everybody why they.
Yeah, dude, I love it. Hopefully we get to a point where one day we're showing everybody why Tyler Guyton is an absolute monster. Up next here. Wow. Vach gave us 4 more plays. Okay, Vach Lombardi, salute to him. Go sub to him on YouTube. We got 4 plays. Here's Tyler Guyton. He is behind this player here, this linebacker out here, and he's matched up on the end. Here we go. Sam Williams. Okay. Good rep. Newbear, tell me about this rep. Good rep from Guyton. Pretty good.
Well, you just see him. I always want to see, did he headbutt? That's the only thing I'm watching right now, is when we started talking about that the other day, because he's so tall and long, and he's not, you know, you want to be a waste man. My 9-year-old daughter struggles with this in basketball. I sent a picture to my wife this morning from camp, and she just sends me, you know, little old lady bending at the waist. You got to bend the knees, you got to get low, and it's hard when you're tall and you're long like that. And he did he headbutt? He headbutted, and that's just, he's got to figure out a way to get his head and neck out of the equation, because this isn't Friday Night Lights where we're talking about our war marks on the team logo, on the high school logo, right? Like, the less contact you have, you know, until you're
got
really
the job done with that one though, right? He was getting the way guy with some bad technique. I don't know. This, Newbear, you told me this might be a 3 or 4 year project to get the back strength and chest strength, shoulders and triceps to really hammer, to be like, dude, I'm just going to slide out there and knock the bleep out of this guy, right? Now he's like, crap, he's going, and I got to get in front of him like a blob with my unathletic upper body here so he doesn't get the quarterback.
The thing play it again, because like the thing I wonder is, I was going to give a compliment about how he's so tall and he's so long. As a rusher, you got to take such
sorry, Twitter just keeps restarting the audio every time I go back and forth. Here we go.
Well, you got to take such a wide. He's already a wide 9, and then that's not really a great rush from 54, right? As much as like I would almost argue he's in the wrong stance. I would almost argue he does everything wrong that you can do wrong, like unless, because this was the very next thought that I had was, is he setting himself up to go inside? Is this really one of those rushes where not that you give up a play, but that you're setting up the next one because you're going to make him look like a damn fool on 3rd and long, right?
Okay.
Like maybe.
Here's the second play. I'm going to let this one go too while you talk. He's against Neeland now.
Yeah.
So Williams, here's Neeland.
Man, is he a big dude?
Over at the way he got yanked down into bending over at the waist on that one.
Yeah. But so I guess the thing I'm going to choose to focus on, and I know Vach has been like really big about being in the trenches, and when you judge these the one-on-one stuff is really hard because you go, it should be black and white. Did you win or did you lose, right? Do you think you gave up a sack or a quarterback hit or a pressure, or did you take the guy on the hula hoop and give him no shot? And the thing about Guyton that you have to almost like remind yourself of is because of his wingspan, and because like it's really more about his feet. We're so focused on how he's bending and the headbutting, because I just want to go back to that because I feel like that's almost like a glitch in his game where he just thinks he needs to do it, and if he could just learn how not to, so many other things open up, because then it becomes natural to play it in a more like balletic and elegant way. And I think the footwork side of it, where he's still giving himself a chance to make the guy have to take the widest path, where even if he does get beat, he's got every opportunity to keep Dak clean.
This is Peyton Turner, veteran signing, kind of a bigger defensive end there. And changing back and forth is so annoying. Looks like it's going to be Sam Williams again. And how's Guyton do on this one?
Oh, I jumped out for a second. I lost it. Sorry.
No, that's all right. You just missed a false start, I believe. You back with me? Yeah, there you
are. Yep,
sir.
Yep.
Here we go. So, maybe he got it. And if he did, that was a good rep.
That's a really good rep for sure. And that's one of those ones where I'm going to keep coming back to. Someone's got to chart Sam Williams in a 2-point stance versus Sam Williams in a 3-point stance, because I haven't seen him in the limited reps that we've seen and the limited socials. I haven't seen a truly good rep from him out of a 2-point stance, or out of a 2-point stance that you trust, where he doesn't want to get down in a 3-point stance, or he looks half as explosive as he functionally is when he puts his hand in the dirt.
Yeah, he's got I guess you would call an unrefined toolkit as a pass rusher. You know what I'm saying? Sam Williams is athlete man, incredible strength and power, but that was one of the reasons that he slipped in the draft. There was some off the field stuff as well, but they just weren't sure if he was going to be able to translate what he does to pro football as easily as he did, because when you're evaluating it, it's like, has he ever worked on his hands or his get off or any of that stuff? But I mean, he's proven at 260 running the way that he does, still nobody can stay in front of him. One other thing from Vach here, as long as we're on the O line, I think this is confirming that they are going to bring some of the jumbo stuff that these do in the past. You had Awesome Richards playing tight end, and Sadiq Charles as well.
It's the SA double DIQ. Oh man, this is so much fun. This is so much fun because what it does is it allows one of those big bad dudes to catch a touchdown in a trick play on the goal line. Like, you're going in motion as an eligible. It's freaking awesome.
Dude, that is hilarious. 77 coming across the formation, then dropping his big gut down there next to the tackle. It's one of the best things I've seen in Oxnard in a while.
Yeah, okay. The tackle over stuff or the heavy packages are so much fun. And, you've seen so much more, the Chicago Bears, because of Ben Johnson and everything he did with his guys in Detroit. He actually had a sequence. They had a whole period the other day where they had the linemen running receiver routes, so they were throwing them go balls. Like, some teams actually incorporated into the goal line package.
Yeah, you should. I mean, it's the ultimate deception. It's the ultimate. You got to defend everybody.
I mean, what did Vrabel had 10 career catches and he scored 10 career touchdowns? I mean, Brady loved throwing to Braves.
Yeah, I got this idea, and I broke it out on the radio quite a bit last year, that the final frontier is multiple players who can essentially be quarterback on the field at the same time.
Oh, I got a link for you. There's a whole system. That's a rabbit hole you will love.
Thank you. Can't wait to see it. Okay. Can't wait to show you Dak going long to CeeDee Lamb. Still not connecting. Is this
one hitch and let it rip, dude. On time and on target.
Yeah, I'd say that the ball placement maybe not ideal there, but like if you're watching this as a Cowboys fan and thinking, oh, they're not connecting on the deep ball, yeah, just look at the 9 years of football for Dak Prescott. He's consistently been really, really good at this part of it. I don't know. Do you want CeeDee Lamb doing that? I guess sometimes just keep the defense honest, but
yeah, when you show it and then you throw it and you hit it. Now, I mean, dude, you're not press man in CeeDee Lamb that much as it is. But if he starts hitting goal balls again, you're expecting it from Pickens, and everyone's just expecting Lamb to all of a sudden be Wes Welker or something. Like, he has long speed. He is wide receiver one. I mean, this is a 200 target guy when it's just him out there. Now that he's got a running buddy, we're going to see the full bag of tricks.
Yeah, you got to give him the opportunity if he's going to get single coverage to go score a touchdown, because he's going to make that happen quite often.
The other side of it is literally the other side of the field. If we're going to talk about Pickens doing more than 0, 1, and 9, then CD's got to do more than shallow slant dig. It's the same thing. You have to go sluggo, and you have to run Pickens on some crossing stuff and let him catch a 0-yard route and then put his foot in the turf, make one move, and watch what the TD Selly is and who's writing the check that week.
Okay, we didn't get a TD Selly on this CeeDee Lamb play, but we got some other post-play theatrics as he fried Troy Pride here pretty good. He's doing clenched fists down there. You see the clenched fist as he's heading back to him. I think just about every day CeeDee Lamb has had a confrontation with players. It
was Kamon Hall yesterday, right, where Schotty told Kamon, "Don't you do it," and it looked like Kamon was going to punch CeeDee Lamb in it.
It did. You can hear the people and the players trying to calm him down a little bit. Do you think this is an example of what Brian Schottenheimer likes the intensity of? Some trash talking, some posturing, but ultimately we're walking away?
Yeah, I mean, you want to be pissed off for greatness. And CeeDee Lamb is a guy who knows that's not Diggs, that's not Bland, that's a backup. I mean, it's still a Sunday player, but it's a backup guy. It's a guy who belongs on a roster, but it's not a guy who you want covering CeeDee Lamb, 65 times a game. At the same time, they were chirping because they made some plays early, and there was a lot of buzz about how Kyer Elam's a fan favorite. He's holding up babies like Simba, and all these different things we've talked about celebrating the defense, because quite frankly, we haven't been expecting that much with all the dudes in red, not red jerseys, red ink on the depth chart that aren't out there. And I think CD had just had enough. This is day after day after day of guys who aren't even going to be starting, getting in wide receiver one's ear.
Love it. Love it. I love this story as well about Sam Williams. Schotty naming Sam Williams when asked about a player he's looking forward to watching in today's first padded practice. Said Williams responded by barking when they talked about the first padded practice in meetings. Sam is excited. Apparently that's something that Aaron Whitecotton has asked the defensive players to do when they talk about putting on pads. He wanted to see if somebody would bark at Sam Williams, took him up on it.
True story. When I was in middle school, we were barking. We got threatened with, and then we got penalized because all our defensive linemen were barking and trying to disrupt the snap count, just being complete little jackwagons. And they said we couldn't bark, and it was unsportsmanlike conduct. So we started mooing, and then they started chop blocking us, and we stopped goofing around.
Yeah, that'll get you right, man. A chop block is a lineman's nightmare, right?
Yeah, I left a few 3-letter ligaments out on the field due to a few of those. Not fun stuff for sure.
Speaking of 3-letter ligaments, buddy, we got injury updates here on How About Wow, brought to you by Elements Massage in Frisco. 2 locations, one next to the Star, one next to the soccer stadium. Elements Massage in Frisco, proud partner of How About Wow. Tell them we sent you, get the How About Wow special. 3rd-round pick Siobhan Ravel going through some individual work on the opposite field during team period. We had a view a couple of days ago of him on the field. Then yesterday we saw him in shells and a helmet on, and the word has been Siobhan Ravel might be getting close to practicing with the Cowboys. What do we see? He looked close to practicing, New Bear.
I don't understand. I mean, he literally looks like he's limping around. Like that hurt.
Legs while jumping. Look at his right leg. It's like, I don't want to. This looks very unathletic. If he plays and moves like this, I will be stunned.
Yeah, so I think optimism. I mean, I'm the most optimistic guy. I think I literally wake up every day and think it's going to be the greatest day of my life. And if I woke up tomorrow and that was all I could do, I would not be telling people I was close to coming back.
Yeah,
I mean, he doesn't trust it. That either hurt or he was afraid that it was going to. And either way, that just tells you he's not ready to play.
No, not even close. Other injury updates here. Let's go to Joseph Hoyt in the morning news. Look at this picture. You got a Tyler Booker.
What a great shot.
I want to be Tyler Booker for Halloween.
Dude, I played with a guy in college who had a huge fro, and then he would get it, cornrowed up for games. And he speaking of Simba, the big Lion King thing is he was like Black Simba, and it was just like some of the looks. That took me back to my guy Big Cat right there. He was a big 6'5", 325-pound guard too. Maybe there's just something about 6'5", 325-pound guards with a little bit of swag.
They're nasty. Okay. Injury updates here. Where are they? New DT on the way. There we go. The Cowboys were without Wanye Thomas, who was seen limping. Deuce Vaughn dealing with a hammy. You also had Brevin Spanford, standout tight end 2 in camp, knocked out of training camp today. Pile up during a run play caused Spanford to fall backwards. Received attention from trainers on the field and inside the injury tent on the field before he left. Okay, and then Terrence Steele was in pads, did individual work and team walkthroughs on Sunday as he deals with his ankle sprain. And there's no update on the leg injury to wide receiver Paris Campbell that was suffered on Saturday. There's your injury updates here on How About Wow, brought to you by our friends at Elements Massage. I do have news on some other players, New Bear. You want to see it?
Give it. Let's do it.
You know how much we love Donovan Ezeiruaku on this channel?
Easy.
And, yeah. I think all rookie teams a lock. Well, apparently, John Machota here in the morning news, Aaron Whitecotton gets the credit. And Stephen Jones was asked about Easy today, says, I give Aaron Whitecotton the credit, the D-line coach. He was standing on the table for him at pick 12 in the first round. He was jumping up and down saying, this guy is the 12th pick. Let's get him. You end up getting him at 41, I think is where it happened for the Cowboys. So, I mean, an absolute steal. Watching him in camp so far, scouting what it was coming out of college, both analytics and film, all makes sense for Donovan Ezeiruaku. Maybe the best second round draft pick the Cowboys have had, maybe since Tank Lawrence.
Man, are you high on this kid? Well, he wears 41. He was pick 44.
44.
And as you go through thinking about this, like if you were willing to pull the trigger on him at 12 and you get him at 44, I mean, that's talk about value, right? I mean, you talked about how Broadus had all 3 of their guys early, including Ravel in the top 40, and you get all 3 of those guys, in the first 3 rounds. That's a hell of a draft. I mean, ACL, even if you got a red shirt or if you miss games and you're not quite right until year 2, or you don't get that big boom until year 2, even if Booker is a guy who we see some depth, and maybe that is a good thing where you have those 6, 7, 8 guys, you have rotational pieces so guys are fresh. And let's not forget there's there's 17 games, there's 18 weeks. There's going to be stretches of the season where they're playing 4 times in 11 days. I mean, guys are going to get hurt and guys are going to need a break. And if you, especially with, first round picks or Dak's hamstring or whatever it is, like when you talk about sitting a guy down for a week with a calf, as opposed to letting that metastasize into an Achilles, like that shit matters over the course of the season. So, this is one of those things where, man, they've got to just be happy as, pigs. And you know what, when you start thinking about, if you're willing to pound the table and say, take this guy at 12 and he falls all the way to you at 44.
I mean, can you imagine the coach? He's like, man, I can't believe I didn't get my guy. He's going home after round 1. Like, yeah, he's on the board, but there's no he's still going to be there. And then he's still freaking there. And you're like, oh my goodness, we're really going to take him this time, aren't we? Same thing happened with Jason Witten, but they actually waited another round.
Yeah. I mean, think about Tom Brady. Think about everyone who's talking about how they thought Tom Brady could be good or they were going to take him. And then, you draft the guy who ends up being a goat farmer. Shout out Giovanni Carmazzi. Like, the draft is one of the most fascinating things in the world because when you talk about, the height, weight, speed stuff, I mean, I can't wait for next year. I mean, obviously the ramp up to this season and the season there's nothing like it, but this will be fun to go through the full season and then, peel the onion on, what next year might look like depending on how the season goes and, how guys do come back or how they might not, or how, someone gets hurt, week 17 or how, someone has a PED or whatever the case may be in the run up to April. So, and oh, by the way, it's in Pittsburgh and I got a plan for us. So
let's go. I cannot wait to hear that plan. And up next here on How About Wow, still a lot of fun to be had here in 2025. We're just getting started. What we learned from Cowboys training camp on Saturday, writes Calvin Watkins in the Morning News. Kaiir Elam, a new fan favorite, ? He could be. I mean, right now he is definitely in contention for Mr. Oxnard. And Mr. Oxnard is not something you want to be. It's the guy who performs well in training camp, and then you never hear from him once the regular season starts. But there's enough to like about Kaiir Elam that maybe when the season starts, he'll play well and he can really fulfill his destiny as a fan favorite. But the thing I liked about this article right here is what he had to say about, his play from yesterday when he lifted that kid up. Lion King celebration style. It says, it's a blessing and it's a privilege to be a Cowboy. I'm grateful. Last year I was inactive a lot of games. My hunger for football grew and grew. I just tried to learn and grow from it. He said, I'm just excited and I'm just trying to give the people a show. That's what they paid to come see. That's all, as far as his explanation for why he went ahead and picked up 4-year-old Kenneth Chambers like Simba in the Lion King during yesterday's Cowboys practice.
This is a guy who, like, when you look back and you look at the measurables and you look at the kind of player he was in high school and what he projected to in college and then in college into the pros. I mean, this is a guy who, had like Jalen Ramsey multi-level type of ability. Like, let's not sleep on the fact that he wasn't an accidental first round pick. I mean, this is a guy, going back over time that he's a top 5 player coming out of high school. He's one of the best players in where all the best players are in college. And then things don't work out in Buffalo. Buffalo had a lot of things not work out. And you could look at that entire organization from the front office through the coaching staff, through the quarterback room, literally every level of that team took some part of the blame for them not winning a Super Bowl over the course of the past few years. Kaiir Elam being a first-round bust is the least of their problems. And now here he is with that second chance. He still has all those traits. It's not like he went there and had back-to-back Achilles blowouts or multiple, Bermuda Triangle knee injuries. I mean, this is a dude with all that stuff, and now he's hungry as, I can't say the word, I'm not supposed to say it, or we agreed we weren't going to drop that many F-bombs.
There you go. Thank you, New Bear. Up next here on About Wow, let me tell you, we're brought to you by Bet Online. There's a $250 bonus referral link in the description. If you click that and sign up through How About Wow, you get up to $250 in free bets plus 100 free spins on their prize wheel. But man, I want to give you this Stephen Jones story. The executive vice president on the fans yelling to Micah Parsons, it doesn't change anything. We want to pay Micah too. He's got to want to be paid. I think to make that a little bit more accurate. That's a nice lid, by the way, from Steve. I'm going to have to buy one of those when I get out to Oxnard.
Absolutely.
But I think
one size fits most, or you think they have size 8 fits?
That looks like it might be a snap. I'm not quite sure, but he says he's got to want to be paid. I would edit that to say he's got to want to be underpaid to get a deal done now with the Cowboys.
So I've decided that, when we go out next year, we're going to bring swag. One of my neighbors was telling me that he's a Cowboys fan, and he's also was at Latrobe and was talking about how like no one at Latrobe is giving out stuff. And I was like, okay, so next year when we come out to Oxnard, we're going to have How About Wow swag in some way, shape, or form. But you and I, at least on one day, because I'm in, I'm not from a cynical perspective, but just from the real, recognized real. Salute Gavin, Michael Dawson. We're going to wear, you and I, at least for one day, for a whole day, are going to wear How About Wow shirts. And I'm a little bigger than you, a little broader than you. So my nameplate will say engagement and yours will say farm.
I love it, New Bear. Let's do it. That'll be our first shirt that we do for How About Wow for the folks at home. Thanks to New Bear for rocking with me. There's a solid hour of content. Tomorrow, I'm on my way to Oxnard. I'll meet you there later on in the week, and we're going to crank so much content, dude. I want to do a show in the morning talking about what we're excited to see. I want to do a show from the start of practice during stretch, and then I want to do a show after practice recapping everything that we saw. And you're going to have a chance there while you're watching practice. The G-Bag Nation's going to be going on, so I don't get to watch it that closely. But, I mean, feeding shorts of plays and your instant takeaways, it's just a content creator's dreamland when you get down to Oxnard and boots on the ground covering practice.
We got the new phones, and the wife's going to shave the back in case you guys want to do anything shirtless. So I'll be locked in.
Right on. Back tomorrow with more Cowboys news and analysis. Till then, how about wow?